So I was thinking the other day about the difference between settling a dispute in a court of law, on a playground in school, and in a Dharma center or in a monastery. Okay? In a court of law and on a playground and in our families, then, when there's a dispute, everybody wants to tell the details of this happened and that happened and this person said this and I said that. And it's quite interesting in these situations. Often you get totally different stories. And you're left there wondering, were they in the same place together? Because one person is saying, oh, this person exploded and stormed out. And the other person is saying, no, that person exploded and stormed out. It's like you hear two totally different stories of what went on. And your job in a legal court or in a family or something with children is kind of to decide, okay, who started it, who's in the wrong, okay? In a dispute in a Dharma center, your purpose is not to decide who did something wrong. That's not the purpose. Yeah. In a Dharma center, we don't care who did something wrong, unless they're breaking one of our pratimoksha precepts, in which case, there's things you have to do according to the Vinaya. But what you care about in a Dharma center is what is going on in people's mind at that time. Because in a Dharma center, the same thing happens. You get two totally different stories. It really doesn't matter who did what. What matters is if people are angry, if people are jealous, if people hold antipathy towards somebody else. Because even if you're right in a dispute, if you're angry, you're wrong. Not you're wrong, but something needs to be corrected. Okay? So that's why lots of times when people come to me about things that have happened and they want to tell me the story, I interrupt them at the very beginning and say, I don't want to hear the story. Because I wasn't there. There's no way I can decide what actually happened, because there's two different stories. And actually, it doesn't really matter what happened. What matters is that people are upset and people are not in harmony. And how can I help them be in harmony? How can I help them give up their anger, give up their resentment or jealousy or antipathy or whatever it is? Yeah, that's, the important thing. And so, if you're somebody's mentor, it's the same thing. Doesn't really matter who said what and who did what, unless somebody's breaking a pratimoksha precept, or breaking, something where we have to, an in-house rule. But most of the time, it's, if you're somebody's mentor, it's dealing with that person's mental state. Yeah. If they're upset, that's what you help them with. Yeah. We're not detectives. We can't go out and interview everybody and, get this low-down scoop on what happened regarding that spatula. Yeah. Or regarding the shovel or whatever it was. And it really doesn't matter. What's important is people's mental state. And you can be the one who made a mistake and be unhappy and angry. You can also be the person who didn't make a mistake and be unhappy and angry. And that's what we have to deal with. okay? So it's very helpful, in situations of conflict, to step back and instead of ruminating in your mind, they did this and they did this, and I was totally innocent because I didn't do anything, and they just kept coming at me with this and that and the other thing. And you go round and around. And of course, we all know that when we recite the incident to ourselves, it gets a little slanted, doesn't it? Yeah, just a little bit, to the point where the other person was the one who was responsible for everything, and I had no role in it at all. It was like I was an empty box of oatmeal. I had totally inanimate, and they just dumped all their stuff on me. Yeah, I had no role in it at all. Yeah, because that's the way our self-centered mind works, isn't it? Yeah, it's always somebody else's thing. It's never mine thing. But when you're angry, that is your thing, regardless of what you did and what the other person did. If you're angry, if you're jealous, if you want revenge, if you say, nobody understands me, everybody's against me, that is your thing. That is your responsibility as a Dharma practitioner to work with in your practice. And that's not something that a court of law or any other person can adjudicate for you. Yeah, somebody can remind you of the methods for dealing with your anger, but you're the one who has to apply them. Yeah, and what's even better is if you remember what the antidotes for anger are and recognize and own your own anger and start to meditate in a way where you apply the antidotes to your anger. Yeah. And then you can become a doctor to your own problems, and you can resolve them much quicker. Yeah. I remember, you've heard my Italy story many times. When I left and I went into retreat in India, I was so angry every single session that day. Every day I was meditating on the antidotes to anger. And I'd get myself calmed down. And then in the break time, I'd tell myself the story again of what they did, and I'd get all riled up again just in time for the next session. And then I'd sit down and I'd meditate on the antidotes to anger again. And this is what my days were like. It was a 3-month retreat. Yeah. But slowly what happened, because it's so miserable to be angry that you have to do something about it. Then slowly, the antidotes started making more sense to me. And, it was like, oh, yeah, this was a result of my karma. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter who was right and who was wrong. Yeah, it matters that I'm angry. And maybe a little bit I played a part in it. Not very much. Not very much. It was all their fault. But maybe a little bit. I did something. Yeah. And so slowly, by practicing that over a period of time during the retreat, the anger really decreased. Yeah. And then that was just so helpful for, establishing in my mind a new habit for looking at situations, and learning to handle situations before my mind went ballistic, retelling the story and ruminating on it and getting myself more and more worked up. Okay? So I highly recommend this. And so please remember that if any time you're telling me a story and I interrupt you and say, I don't want to hear the details, this is why. It's not because I'm trying to hurt you, as she said yesterday, you know. It's because I'm trying to help you focus on what is important. Yeah. Okay. And that's what mentors and that's what should do for their mentees. And that's what all of us should do to help each other. Yeah. Yeah. Because it really goes back to what Shantideva said. You can he said you can put leather on the entire earth or you could wear shoes. Now you can put asphalt on the entire earth or we can wear shoes. Yeah, we're trying to put asphalt everywhere, aren't we? Yeah. It's not a very good idea. Okay, so let's just keep working with our minds because that's the real thing. Yeah. And then we become a doctor to our own minds. We can solve our own problems. Life is so much easier, and we don't get started on the wrong path as often.